52 years. That's how long I was married to my wife Catherine. 52 years of waking up next to the same person. 52 years of shared meals and shared bills and shared silence. 52 years that went by in what feels like both forever and an instant. My name is William Foster. I'm 78 years old. Catherine passed away 14 months ago. And I'm here to tell you the one truth about love that nobody wants to say out loud. The truth that would have saved us years of unhappiness if someone had just been honest with us from the start. Are you ready? Here it is. Love is not enough. I know. That's not what the movies tell you. That's not what the songs say. That's not what the greeting cards and the romance novels and the wedding vows promise you. But it's the truth. And Catherine and I learned it the hard way. We met in 1967. I was 23, fresh out of the Navy. She was 21, working at a bookstore in Boston. I walked in looking for a copy of Hemingway, and she recommended Steinbeck instead. We argued about it for 20 minutes. I asked her to dinner. She said yes. We fell in love fast. The kind of love that feels like drowning and flying at the same time. The kind where you can't eat, can't sleep, can't think about anything except the other person. We'd stay up all night talking about everything and nothing. We'd walk for miles through the city, holding hands, making plans. I proposed after 6 months. We got married at City Hall with 2 witnesses. We pulled off the street. We were young and in love and convinced that was all we needed. And for a while it was. The first few years were good. We were poor, living in a cramped apartment, eating ramen, struggling to make rent. But we were together. We'd laugh about our mismatched furniture and our leaky faucet. We'd dance in the kitchen to records we'd buy at thrift stores. Love felt like enough. Then life started happening. I got a job as an accountant. Long hours, decent pay. Catherine got pregnant. We had Emma in 1970, then Michael in 1972. We moved to the suburbs, bought a house, got a mortgage, got real furniture, got responsibilities, and somewhere in all of that we stopped being us. Catherine wanted to go back to school. She'd always wanted to be a teacher, but we couldn't afford childcare and tuition, so she stayed home with the kids, and I could see it eating at her. This dream deferred. This version of herself she had to put on hold, but we didn't talk about it. Not really. I'd ask if she was okay. She'd say she was fine, and we'd both pretend that was true. I worked late, a lot, told myself I was providing, building security, being a good father and husband. But the truth, I was avoiding the tension, avoiding the conversations we needed to have, avoiding the fact that we were drifting apart. We still loved each other. That was never the question. But love wasn't solving our problems. Love wasn't paying the bills or raising the kids or bridging the gap that was growing between us. By our 10th anniversary, we were roommates who occasionally had sex. We'd sit at the dinner table with the kids and talk about logistics. Who's picking up Emma from soccer? Did you pay the electric bill? Michael needs new shoes. But we never talked about us, about what we wanted, about what we were feeling, about the fact that we were lonely even though we shared a bed every night. I thought this was normal. I thought this was what marriage was supposed to be after the honeymoon phase wore off. Comfortable, predictable, a little boring but stable. Catherine thought the same thing. So we just kept going, year after year, loving each other but not really knowing each other anymore. The kids grew up. Emma went to college in 1988, Michael in 1990, and suddenly it was just the 2 of us in that house, and we had nothing to say to each other. We'd sit in the living room after dinner. I'd read the paper. She'd watch television. We'd go to bed at different times. We'd wake up and go through our separate routines. 2 people living parallel lives. I was 48 years old, married for 23 years, and I was profoundly unhappy. And I knew Catherine was too, but we still loved each other. That was the confusing part. I'd look at her sometimes and remember that girl in the bookstore who argued with me about Hemingway. I'd remember how she laughed, how she saw the world, and my heart would ache, but I didn't know how to bridge the gap. I didn't know how to talk to her anymore, so I didn't. It was Catherine who finally broke. We were sitting at dinner one night. I was talking about something meaningless, the weather maybe, or the news. And she just started crying, not sad crying, angry crying. "I can't do this anymore," she said. My heart stopped. "Do what?" "This, us, whatever this is. We're not married, William. We're just two people who happen to live in the same house." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't, because she was right. "I love you," I said. Like that fixed everything. "I know," she said. "I love you too. But that's not enough. It hasn't been enough for a long time." That conversation should have ended our marriage. Probably would have for a lot of couples. But instead it saved it. Because for the first time in years we were actually being honest. Actually being vulnerable. Actually talking about the real stuff instead of just the surface logistics of life. We started therapy. Both of us resistant, both of us skeptical. I thought therapy was for people with real problems. We just needed to try harder, I thought. We just needed to reconnect. But the therapist, Dr. Morrison, she said something in our first session that changed everything. "Love is the foundation," she said, "but you can't build a life on foundation alone. You need walls, you need a roof, you need electricity and plumbing and all the infrastructure that makes a house livable." Catherine and I looked at each other. Finally, someone was saying what we'd both been feeling but couldn't articulate. Love is the foundation, but it's not the house. We learned that marriage needs more than love. It needs communication, real communication, not just logistics and small talk, but actual vulnerability, saying the hard things, asking for what you need, admitting when you're hurt or scared or lost. Catherine told me she felt invisible, that she'd spent 20 years being Emma's mom and Michael's mom and William's wife, but she'd forgotten how to be Catherine, and I'd never asked, I'd never checked in. I'd just assumed she was fine because she said she was fine, and I told her I felt like a paycheck, like my only value was providing, that I came home exhausted and she'd be frustrated with me for not being more present with the kids, and I felt like I couldn't win. These were conversations we should have had 15 years earlier, but better late than never. We learned that marriage needs effort, intentional, consistent effort, not just on anniversaries or when things are falling apart. Every day, small things, asking about each other's day, and actually listening, touching each other, not sexually, just touch, a hand on the shoulder, a kiss before leaving for work, physical connection that says, "I see you." We started a weekly date night, nothing fancy, sometimes just coffee at a diner, but it was time that was ours. No kids' logistics, no household discussions, just us remembering why we liked each other in the first place. We learned that marriage needs individual identity, that we couldn't just be William and Catherine. We had to be William and Catherine, two whole people choosing to build a life together. Catherine went back to school at 49, got her teaching degree, started teaching high school English at 52, and watching her come alive again, watching her rediscover that part of herself she'd buried for 2 decades, it was like falling in love all over again. And I started painting, something I'd always wanted to do but never made time for. I was terrible at it, still am, but Catherine would sit and watch me paint and she'd make gentle fun of my awful trees and we'd laugh, real laughter, the kind we hadn't shared in years. We learned that marriage needs forgiveness, for the big things and the small things, for the ways we hurt each other intentionally and accidentally, for the years we wasted being too proud or too scared to be vulnerable. I had to forgive Catherine for the ways she'd shut me out, and she had to forgive me for not trying harder to get in. We both had to forgive ourselves for losing so much time. The last 25 years of our marriage were better than the first 25, not because we loved each other more, we always loved each other, but because we finally built a real partnership, a real friendship, a real life together. We traveled, we laughed, we fought better, not less but better. We knew how to repair now, how to come back to each other after disagreements. Catherine got sick 3 years ago, pancreatic cancer, fast and brutal, and in those final months, I'm grateful we'd done the work. I'm grateful we'd learned how to really be with each other. She died in our bed holding my hand, and her last words to me were, "It was worth it. The hard parts, all of it. It was worth it." I'm 78 years old now, alone in this house, and I miss her every single day. But I don't have regrets, not anymore, because we figured it out. We learned the truth that nobody tells you. Love is not enough. But love plus effort plus communication plus individual growth plus forgiveness plus intention, that's enough. That's everything. If you're married, if you're in love, if you're building a life with someone, don't just rely on love. Love is the foundation. But you have to build the rest. You have to do the work. Talk to each other. Really talk. Be vulnerable. Be honest. Be willing to grow and change and forgive. Don't wait until you're 48 and miserable to start having real conversations. Catherine and I wasted 20 years being in love but not really being partners. Don't make our mistake. Love is beautiful, but it's not magic. It doesn't fix problems on its own. You have to build a life together, actively, intentionally, every single day. That's the simple truth no one tells you about love. It took us 52 years to fully understand it, learn it faster than we did.